My name is Micael, and I'm here to present my new book, The Great Parasite. The first time I heard about Bitcoin, it was not difficult to understand its value, right? In these times we're living, the information age, as many people call it. But the more I study all these topics correlated to Bitcoin, I was pulling strings of a more complex system, right? Our banking system. And I started to understand how the banks controls our governments, right? With the loans and the conditions on that loans. And I'm from Argentina, so I know from firsthand the consequence of an inflationary monetary system, right? Our money is constantly losing value because of the increasing supply. And it's not just in Argentina, right? It's all around the world. So why I brought this book? Because I think the main problem is the lack of education out there, you know? There are many books, but in this book I try to put all the pieces together to show the people the big picture. And it's a mathematical certainty that public debts cannot be repaid, okay? So bankruptcies and foreclosures are a certainty under this system. Governments are already broke, but they keep working because they always have more funding, because as many as you know, money is created just out of air. No, it's not money, it's currency, exactly. And so we always come back to this famous equation, right? Infinity divided by 21 million. So the year I was born, 1 peso was the equivalent to $1. Argentina was under the dollar standard. But due to the fractional reserve system, it was unsustainable. Now you need up to 1,000 pesos to get $1. That's the equivalent of a 99.9% loss in the purchasing power of the peso. And in the same period of time, the dollar has lost up to 85% of its purchasing power against gold. Many Argentinians don't understand this. But once they do, they will come to Bitcoin, of course. The government's ability to go into debt and devalue the currency give the ruling class an immoral and unfair advantage. They are parasites. They are extracting the wealth from the public to the government and government officials. And of course, corporations that work with the government. They influence the GDP in the sense that the officials are literally parasites. A century ago, Argentina was one of the richest countries in the world. But the central bank was installed in 1935. And since then, we have had 5 different fiat currencies. All of them end up in hyperinflation, taking the savings of entire lives and families. It's very sad. So, countries like Argentina are very rich nations. Even though their governments are broke, their nations are still rich. Countries like Argentina, Venezuela, and all of Latin America, right? So this financial parasite, makes sure to limit its growth and subjugate their populations. I also want to make a connection between the United States of America and Bitcoin, because I truly believe that they are really connected. The fight for freedom is ancient, and it has evolved through history. The creation of the United States of America was one of the most important moments in human history, I think, because they recognized the natural rights of individuals that are written down in the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. These rights do not depend on the government. And they existed before the Constitution, okay? But this was the first time that they were immortalized in the document. That's why I think it's so important. as the Declaration of Independence goes, the government derive their power from the consent of the governed. If there is no contract, there is no reciprocal obligation, okay? They want us to believe that the government is this God, powerful, that controls everything, but they don't, in reality. The Founding Fathers were very brave and intelligent. They realized man cannot be free unless he can to choose his belief, his interest-free monetary system, and the people he contract and does business with, and the terms of those contracts. The United States of America was created to recover and defend the sovereignty of individuals by opposing the tyranny of England and its usury-based banking system. Until the Fed was created, 1930. What happened back then? Well, the European bankers were not happy with this new republic getting free, and creating wealth outside their system. So they wanted to install this usury system again. And since the beginning, it was a constant war. Jefferson, Lincoln, all of them. They advanced step by step until finally dealing to great blow the United States with the establishment of the Federal Reserve. This is the great parasite, a system of central banks ever present in our lives that, like a virus, spreads in all the aspects of our lives. Not just money, it's education, it's food, it's information, it's everything. The entire world has been devastated since 1944 and continues to this day under the threat from its military-industrial complex. As Thomas Jefferson said, right? I think that banking institutions are more dangerous to our freedom than entire armies ready for combat. If the American people one day allow private banks to control their currency, the banks and the institutions that flourish around the banks will deprive the people from all possessions, first by inflation and then by deflation, until the day their children will wake up homeless and roofless in the land their fathers conquered. Prophetic. Well, here is the connection, right? It's also interesting to mention that the white paper was published on October 31, the same day that Luther published its thesis against the action of the church. Satoshi's white paper is based on the same ideals as the original vision of the United States, but this time on a global scale, with unstoppable code and a military-grade computer system. Sovereignty and power are returning to those who truly belong, we, the people. It is not coincidence that much of the Bitcoin development and growth took place in America. Even today, its citizens enjoy easier access to information and resources than most countries in the world. Without such freedoms, we could not be truly free or create new solutions to our problems. Thanks to Satoshi, the flame of freedom began to spread again, and this time with new technologies and resources to support it. And in addition, education about the financial system is flourishing like never before. So my mission: for lack of vision, the people perish. If you don't understand investments, currencies, and economics, you are in trouble. The great parasites take advantage of us, of our ignorance, again, like our ignorance of law, of commerce, and of finance, of course. I wrote this book because I firmly believe access to information and education is the fundamental pillar of free societies. If we do not know our rights and do not defend them, it's easy to take them away. We are enslaved by contracts and fiat currencies and our lack of knowledge about it. My mission is to help spread the message, helping the reader to connect the dots and understand that our fundamental rights are once again under attack. So those are some of the points, right? The goal is to achieve a critical mass of individuals who can accurately perceive what is really happening. I want them to rebuild the big picture to as many people as possible, so they might deeply understand our critical situation. Education will empower us to recognize the evils and take the necessary steps to correct them. This is the great parasite. The great parasite feeds on our wealth, our time, and our energy. Health, also, and resources. The parasite takes them away by controlling the access to information and resources. It controls the currency supply, and at his wish, he can force the economy into a recession or depression, forcing people into foreclosure. It controls educational institutions, limiting the knowledge we can get in them. It controls all major newspapers, TV shows, and social media platforms to control our perceptions and make sure we remain distracted and ignorant. They accomplish their goals by keeping the population passive, constantly propagated and subliminally programmed. In this way, they obtain our consent to fulfill their plans and objectives without us even realizing. It is very important to mention that our actions are influenced by what do we think. And what do we think, it's the consequence of the information we consume. We are like a computer, inputs and outputs. If our inputs are mass media, social networks, censorship, fact checkers, institution, it's not pure information. It's very influenced. And it's based on fear, because they want us to be in a state of fear. It's a good business to do that. And we have seen this with the pandemic, right? So the parasite aims to keep us in a constant state of fear. When we are afraid, we cannot think rationally, and we are more easily manipulated. Many people trust in governments, banks, and big pharma, or big tech, and other entities that do not have our best interest in mind. In this way, we relinquish our power to them. Our financial system is based exclusively on the full faith and credit of the United States, which is sustained mainly by widespread ignorance. So this is how it goes. Money from below to above, lies from above to below. The word credit means to believe or trust. So yes, the financial system is based on a belief system. Kind of a religion. You can call Bitcoin a cult, but the US dollar is a real cult. They are the ones that, the dollar and every fiat currency, right, that are backed by our ignorance and the machinery, the war machine to back them, right? Credit is the opposite of money. The parasite has abused this trust for decades. And that trust is crumbling as real information flows to more people. The privately owned, enslaving, corrupt monetary system must collapse if we seek to escape its corrupt labyrinth. But we are in a difficult and painful transition process. When we reach a critical mass, the tower will crumble, and everything will collapse. So now I want to explain the Federal Reserve and the IMF plantation, because we live in a corporate bubble, and we don't even realize. Of course, many of you realize already that the political spectacle of voting, in addition to being a waste of resources, is just a media show. The constitutional republic that was created by great men in the past are no longer such. They are just bankrupt corporate entities. In the case of the United States government, it was replaced by a corporation in 1871 and dissolved in 1933 when it was declared bankrupt. At the time, the gold of the American public was stolen and replaced with Federal Reserve notes, which are debt. The people stopped having any power over the corporate government and stopped using real money. We are told that we have the power to choose our representatives, and that's true. We can choose maybe between 2 or 3 candidates that were already pre-selected by the people in power. Maybe people are not in power by our choice, but yes, because of our consent and obedience. The United States is a corporate trade name for a bankrupt company that owes its public debt to the creditor company, the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, in the same way, is not federal and has not reserves, right? Just as Tesla Inc. has nothing to do with Nikola Tesla. These are just corporate names. They don't really represent what they mean. The United States is a foreign corporation with respect to the state, just like the Federal Reserve. They are only corporate trade names or legal fictions. So you're always voting for banker candidate 1 or banker candidate 2. As Napoleon said, when a government is dependent upon banker for money, they, and not the leaders of the government, control the situation. Since the hand that gives is above the hand that takes. Money has no motherland. Financiers are without patriotism and without decency. Their sole objective is gain. So I need one. So, banks need the government to go always more into debt because we always need our debt to increase to keep the machinery going. All governments are bankrupt before the same bankers who finance them so they can continue spending even if they are bankrupt. So it doesn't matter in which country taxes are collected, they are going to the same bankers. No, the taxpayer money are not going into roads or schools. No, they are going to pay the always increasing interest on the debt, okay? There is a biblical proverb that says that the borrower becomes the slave of the lender. And this has been true for millennia. So, governments are very clever at making us believe that we own them money, when the truth is that we are the true creditors of the government. Governments are for-profit corporations and survive at the expenses of an ignorant and obedient public who, by law, have given up their sovereignty. The parasitic sector depends upon the private sector for its survival, because it's this one, the one who creates wealth. But it's carrying a heavy burden: debt, inflation, and taxes. Today, governments function as devices that allow the intelligent few to take advantage of the efforts of the ignorant many. A generalization, yes, but it's also truth. If we want to be free, we must stop carrying such a heavy load and deworm ourselves, knowing that when the government declares bankruptcy, it will go after all the property under its control or its jurisdiction. So, the only game is the Uniform Commercial Code. The contracts made the law. The Constitution is just a contract within the public and the government. Even your ID is a contract. Your passport, your bank account, it's all about contracts that we don't even understand many of the times. The UCC encompasses all existing codified statutory laws, governing all relationships between businesses and governments, as well as the issuance of all currency, the most important asset on our modern society. Under the UCC, there are only two types of people: debtors and creditors. So as I say, the law is codified on contracts. So we must decodify those laws. A code is a system used for brevity or secrecy of communication. Every law today is code. This code is mutable, and what was legal yesterday may not be legal tomorrow. Under this code, there is a distinction between an individual and a corporation. The individual has rights and carry on his private business in his own way. His power to contract is unlimited, has no duty before the state or his neighbors to disclose his businesses. He owes nothing to the public as long as he does not violate their rights. On the other hand, corporations are statutory entities, a creature of the state. Their powers are limited by law, and they must follow its codes. The private sector can function outside the plantation box, but statutory entities cannot because they are part of it. living flesh and blood men and women, on the other hand, must only fulfill their contractual obligation. If there is no contract, there is no obligation. So, many of you understand that currency is credit. When you deposit your currency in the bank, it's not really your currency, you're loaning it to the bank. But the complex part of this is that we are the source of credit. Our IDs, birth certificates, they are created when we're born. And they are meant to represent us, but they are not ours. They're just like corporations, legal fictions. And we do not have the ownership of that pieces of intellectual property where our assets are resting. So this is the matrix, the statutory public system. And it's privately owned. Even the law is copyrighted in British law. So governments, banks, and corporations work together with the UCC, fiat currencies, and UPCs, Universal Product Codes. We are incorporated economic slaves because we have to follow these obligations, contractual obligations, with our contracts. We are voluntarily accepting the obligations to bear unpayable public debts and handling our assets and the fruit of our labors for the simple benefit or right of using the fiat currency system. It is the most unfair exchange we can do. We have to pay literally an infinite price, given that the debt and the interest are always increasing, for services that are in decline. As the state grows, it's centralized and becomes less efficient and only works so the few can steal from the many. This distinction between your real name or your corporate name, it's only important in a courtroom. So the distinction is between being incorporated and non-incorporated. The Black's Law Dictionary explains that the banker is someone who is dedicated to the banking activity without being incorporated. Even though the bank, as a corporation, is incorporated, the profits are going to a non-incorporated entity. This means that they are not part of this public matrix, but they use it for financial gain. Banks got your wealth for free. Wealth is everything that you can sell. You can sell your home, your car, your gold, silver, or your time. But the banks get your labor for free. The most important word is jurisdiction. Under which jurisdiction are you? We are not just talking about territory. We are talking about contracts. Before Bitcoin, you needed complex trust structures and spent thousands of dollars on specialized lawyers for proper asset protection in an unincorporated manner. Only the privileged few could access to these services. Today, millions of individuals can access and obtain similar results at a minimal cost in comparison, just buying a hardware wallet and acquiring Bitcoin in the good, right way. So, why Bitcoin? Why now? The financial system has been designed as a closed system to steal our energy and maintain its control. On the other hand, Bitcoin was designed as an open system, a complete new infrastructure where there's no need to be incorporated to do business. We don't need cards, we don't need certificates to open a Bitcoin wallet and start doing business. Bitcoin is restoring the property rights we once had with gold, but with much better and greater capabilities, allowing individuals to break the chains of a completely corrupt system and providing a new infrastructure to do commerce. The ultimate goal of socialism, communism, and any type of collectivism is to centralize control, guide public behavior, and take away their sovereignty to create dependence on the system that they have built. This evil system needs to kill the human essence and the imagination of the people to ensure its dominance. This system is now being implemented around the world with the so-called 2030 agenda and its climate crisis hoax. This agenda will strike us down with sickness and poverty unless we act to expose and fight it. As John F. Kennedy said, our problems are created by men. Therefore, they can be solved by men. We are only limited by our lack of knowledge and understanding. With the power of Bitcoin, we can start building businesses outside this system and stop feeding the parasite. This is not something that it's going to happen from one day to another. It's going to take a lot of time, education, resources, and work. But when individuals take responsibility and work together, everything is possible. The antithesis of control is sovereignty. Now that we have regained our sovereignty over money, we need to reinforce our sovereignty over energy, food, and information. The ability to exchange our resources and build businesses in this new infrastructure will determine the level of protection we can exercise over our rights and freedoms. As Benjamin Franklin said, he who exchanged liberty for security deserves neither liberty nor security. And he was right, and still is. Recover your power. Just say no. The world runs on the initiative of approximately 5% of the people. The rest just follow orders. And it's our knowledge, our work, and our actions that keep the machinery running. Once we realize this, we can take back our power. Don't let them fool you to believe that we are too small to do something. Everything started as an idea. Even the United States started as an idea. And look what it is today. Bitcoin also started as an idea, and it's now a $500 billion asset, monetizing an infinite supply of energy into a limited number of bytes. Isn't it that crazy? Or, yeah. So, courage, leadership, and action are needed to protect our freedoms. If we do not plan our next steps, well, we are planning to fail. And if we do not actively oppose evil, we are passively collaborating with it. Everything that is happening right now, before our eyes, can be modified by our participation. Fear, apathy, and skepticism will not help. The real voting tool we have is how do we use our time and energy, and how do we spend our money. We should vote for individuals and companies that are aligned with our principles and values, fighting for sovereignty over money, energy, and food, while boosting local communities. Bitcoin is just the beginning. As more individuals gather resources, focus on work under the same ideals in an organized manner, the more powerful the creation will be. Remember that Bitcoin, that's like any type of money or currency, it's a means to an end. Our goal is to be happy, and to be happy we need to be free. So it's our decision. Believe it or not, we are in a war for the same reason that the Revolutionary War was fought. But this time, it's not fought by bullets, but by emails, websites, and books, technology, and businesses. If we don't fight, we are going to lose. The system is designed to keep us in debt, broke, and enslaved. Why should one class of citizens create currency out of thin air and loan it to enslave the second class of citizens? I also need your help. I think it's very important to clarify, simplify, and improve the message, so more people can understand what's really going on. In my experience, Bitcoiners are one of the most smart people I have ever met, and I will really appreciate your feedback and recommendations for the book. We need a simple, beautiful, complete, and harmonious story that leads people to question their answers so that they can challenge their belief system as soon as possible. We must wake up everyone on banking and its agenda. Once they get this, they will also wake up to the health issue, United Nations, education, drugs, and other issues. The more people understand the situation, the more they can help themselves to make smart decisions and also help others. Getting rid of false belief systems is how we destroy the chains of ignorance that keep us enslaved. Education is the key. Knowledge has value. Learn and teach others, especially our children. As long as we speak and expose the truth, we will better defend and protect our life, liberty, and freedom, and we will win. I want your help to spread the message, share my book on social media if you can, and recommend it to friends that you believe they should read it. And I want to thank you, everyone, and thank everyone who is fighting for the same mission.